Cooper Kupp ends up in Kansas City.
In Kansas City,
I am going to pitch it.
am I saying?
I think he ends up. I think
will, or I think he should.
However you interpret that, he ends up in Kansas City.
I'll keep this one too.
No, I said I'm pitching it.
There's the only other one. I'm keeping it. There's only
I think he goes to Tampa.
That's the other team.
Yeah, that's the. I think Tampa needs them way more.
Do they really?
With
argue
Chris
that
Godwin and Mike Evans out, yeah, that's if
Mike
they want to
Evans
save their
Mike
season.
Evans is coming back though. He's just
But week 11.
I would argue that Kansas City needs them more just because their realistic goals are much higher. I don't know if the Bucks are ready to contend for a Super Bowl this year, while the Chiefs certainly are with their defense. You add Cooper Kupp into the mix, Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco come off IR soon. That's not even mentioning Marquise Brown. Suddenly your whole offense is a lot more dangerous, and Cooper Kupp is a different type of receiver that Kansas City hasn't had in years. A guy who's he's a route running master.
Outside of, it's like having a faster Travis Kelce on your outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's crazy work.
That opens up so much because Andy Reid, offensive genius, right? He and his offensive coordinators are gonna find ways to get this guy open with his route running ability. Kupp would be able to do it. And you think about it from the Rams' point of view, you're not contending. Puka Nacua has shown when Cooper Kupp is out that he can produce at an elite level. You have guys like Tyler Johnson, Tutu Atwell, who can still be vertical threats on the outside, and you have a young receiver who just drafted in Jordan Whittington, who profiles very similarly to Cooper Kupp, who also is in the top 10 in receiving for rookies and is up there in receiving for the Rams themselves. So Whittington, I see is, let him learn from Puka Nacua. Let him, give him some more playing time, some more reps, because, he led the league in preseason receiving yards. No, that doesn't mean too much, but he's shown that he can be reliable, that he can catch the football. And
FYI, sorry to interrupt, not really breaking, but it is Jameis Winston will be starting over DTR for the Browns going forward.
Well, that was probably the case after DTR's performance.
DTR was just for the game plan, just for yesterday. But anyways, continue.
But I think that the Rams can afford to move on from Cooper Kupp and get some draft capital, right? The Rams haven't really drafted anyone up until this year with early picks because they traded them all away. And then what happens with your early picks that you use? Oh, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, these kinds of guys. And there's two of the best rookie defensive linemen in the entire league. So the Rams, they seem to have good talent evaluation, especially because they can hit on players late in the draft like a Puka Nacua. Let's accumulate more picks, trade Cooper Kupp, who is getting older, to a team in the opposite conference who needs a guy like him, who is willing to pay a pretty penny, knowing that we're not contending right now, and we have other guys who we know will be able to produce without Cooper Kupp drawing double teams or their top corner. So I think it makes sense for the Rams to trade him away, and I think it makes a lot of sense for Kansas City. And between Kansas City and Tampa, I think that Kansas City has more reasons to try to outbid the other than Tampa Bay does.
Yes, but to go with that, and yes, you talk about the late hit with Puka Nacua. If, like you say, this move to Tampa doesn't set them up like it would for the Chiefs for a Super Bowl run, they would be getting the lower picks, though. If that were to go with it, or to go with your statement.
That's true, but then you're also assuming that both teams are offering picks in the same round and the equal amount of picks. Because again,
I think they came out and said that at a minimum it's going to be a second.
Okay, but do you think both teams are really only going to offer a second? I think that Kansas City would be much more willing to trade more picks for a Cooper Kupp because they have more to gain by trading for Cooper Kupp.
I still feel like if he goes to Tampa, I still think that sets them up. I think that sets them up perfectly.
I mean, yeah, you might get a better pick because it's higher in that round, but
No, I know,
the
but I'm
Rams
talking
have
about like
shown-
I'm just talking about in general. I think either way, if they go to Tampa, if he goes to Tampa or Chiefs, I feel like both of them can be contenders at that point still. I still
I
think
don't-
Tampa can be a contender with Cooper
I
Kupp.
think-
I don't see Cooper going to the Vikings unless Matthew.
I was gonna say
Stafford
that one
goes
was
there.
interesting, Torque.
And
I
then-
wanted to hear
and
about that.
They got Jordan Addison, and then
Mhm.
what's his name? Hawkinson's coming back. I think they're good.
Jefferson, Hawkinson,
And then they got Jalen Naylor, who's been really good for them. But
Powell?
Packers, the Packers, they got too many.
Packers
wide
got too
receivers.
damn many.
Yeah.
They don't.
And
I would-
I,
I
think
would
Tampa
waste it.
Tampa Bay could contend, sure, but I mean, if you're each franchise looking at your roster top to bottom, like Tampa, yeah, they just had a loss against a really good team, so it's not that bad. But if you're Kansas City, the way that your offense isn't performing well, I think that Kansas City is still closer to winning to being in that Super Bowl winning conversation than Tampa is, and I think that Kansas City thinks that they are closer than Tampa Bay thinks they are. I'm not saying that Tampa Bay wouldn't be a contender and that wouldn't instantly make them a whole lot better and probably a lock to win the NFC South and all those other things. I think they would be if they trade for Cooper Kupp. But
Yeah.
I think that Kansas City being undefeated, right? Being undefeated with an amazing defense, with all their top weapons on offense out, and you add Cooper Kupp to that team, I mean, they would probably be the betting favorites. You would have every reason to believe that Kansas City would repeat. Tampa Bay, they would suddenly launch themselves into the conversation for maybe making the Super Bowl. So again, I think Kansas City would have different expectations and would be better able to reach them if they traded for Cooper Kupp than Tampa Bay. Thus, I believe that they would be willing to give up more. And again, the Rams have shown a propensity for being able to draft good players in later rounds. So I think it's safe to assume too that they do value, more picks, right? Rather than a pick in a higher pick in the same round, right?
Right.
And I think all of those things combined leads me to believe like Kansas City over Tampa. Both are great destinations, but I do think that Kansas City, I think, would be ideal for both teams and player.
Well, I mean, there's several different options that you can go to for sure. And
Yeah.
another one that I just want to throw in there is the Raiders. The Raiders, I hate to bring them up, but like, what makes a lot of sense to me is if the Rams trade a first round pick for Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford.
Oh, you're saying that the Raiders give them a first round pick for both of them?
Yep,
For Stafford and Cup?
for Stafford and Kupp, and potentially a younger player that could help them out.
I don't feel like that would be enough.
I don't think that's
I don't.
I
Think
mean,
either
look,
one of them is worth a first round pick at this point. That's what I'm saying. It might be enough, and a couple, maybe another pick and another player in that deal, and it automatically fills in some deficiencies that the Raiders have because their defense is not bad. I don't know. I'm just thinking of potential trade spots
No.
where
I mean,
you don't have to worry about
Before you-
chemistry between two players because they come there. with
that's
chemistry.
true. And before you mentioned Stafford, I was like, I don't know. But like if they are getting sent together, I don't see why not. Right? Because I mean, if you're a receiver, you don't have a quarterback or a running game really, you're screwed. Your career is toast. But if you have a quarterback back there who is a proven track record of not only winning, but when he's not winning, he's still putting up massive numbers and giving your team a chance week in and week out with a terrible offensive line. Like, look, Matt Stafford has been in his entire career in Detroit, had a top wide receiver putting up top wide receiver numbers while himself getting crunched in the pocket, like week in and week out. And I don't know the numbers about Vegas's offensive line, so I'm not going to say like they're terrible because I just don't know that. But you got to imagine that.
I'm
without
sure
a running
somewhere a
game-
Raiders fan is typing that we're wrong already.
I mean, look, if If y'all do have a
Not
good
Torque.
offensive line, then that makes it even better. But y'all don't have a running game. So I guess in a sense, my point still stands. You don't have a running game to support to support Stafford, but he's able to stand in the pocket, deliver good footballs downfield, and absorb hits. He's the quarterback who, if you throw him into a bad offense, he's going to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
And give him
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, you got a bona fide superstar receiver too. So if you're Vegas, I would say just don't pay too much because, again, both of these guys are getting older. You don't want to ransom away your future just for an aging quarterback and wide receiver who can help you win now. But even then, if they trade for both of them, I don't think that they would be Super Bowl contenders. So why give up premium draft capital for both of them? So
Facts. Yeah, I could see that.
I feel like the only reason that you make this trade for Stafford and Kupp for the Raiders is just to prove that it's not fire Antonio Pierce and he just does not have the right talent. He's got the coaching, all that, he just doesn't have the talent. Because it's a very love-hate train roller coaster wishy-washy bullshit going on with AP right now in Las Vegas.
Right.
But yeah, I just don't think it's a logistical move.
Well, there's a lot of places that he could go. Torque says that's what I think the Vikings should do: send Darnold in a 1 for Kupp and Stafford. Tell me they don't become Super Bowl favorites.
Well, and that's what the plan was with that's what it had said in the report that came out with talking about Stafford being traded for Darnold, was that Vikings are in a very win now mode, especially with the entire NFC North being very competitive between the Bears, who would have fucking thought I said that, the Packers and the Lions. And then the plan is that they being the Rams, want Sam Darnold to be the guy moving forward. So after the trade, basically sign him to an extension. We've seen what you've done. Stafford's a little bit old. Go out, have one last hoorah before Kelly makes you retire. Sam, come over here. We're going to extend you. You know, here are your weapons. You'll have Puka Nacua. Maybe you'll have Cooper Kupp. Who knows? You'll have Tutu Atwell, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum. We'll work on this, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that so far is what I've seen that's what the part of the report was for the trade. Because I saw that and I went, this would be stupid. And then I read through and I was like, okay, never mind. That makes a bit more sense.
Right.
I don't know. This trade, something tells me this trade deadline is going to be very interesting, or it's going to be absolutely nothing.
I wonder how many people are going to force a trade in regards to them not being confident in this year's draft. Because this is an interesting draft.
Could be
coming up.
interesting.